Let's reconsider the question whether you can learn German through pure transcription, doing only dictation exercises, ignoring vocabulary and grammar by and large. Also, let's ask whether sentences with noise in the background, that is, realistic data from Mozilla Common Voice, are actually helpful. Jump into it.
Ich denke, das Risiko können wir in Kauf nehmen, urteilte Ulrike.
In this case, in the review of the session, you can see the replay link here, that the diff is missing. There's no difference. I actually got this one right, in spite of the birds and the dog barking in the background, which I like. Very few things I'm actually proud of in my life, but I'm very proud that I can transcribe German sentences even when dogs are barking in the background. But shouldn't exercises for students be totally clean and with the native speaker pronouncing each syllable like this? Because, how else could you get a sentence right on the first impression? Well, I made another video on that, but once your knowledge of vocabulary and grammar reaches a certain point, then even if you only hear like 40 or 50% of the actual sounds, your brain can repair the lossy communication. It's as though you're receiving information over a lossy channel. How to repair that? Well, I don't actually remember enough information theory to complete the metaphor, but the idea is that by simple knowledge of patterns, if someone were to say, shut the up, you probably know what the third word is in that expression, even if you dropped it. Your brain might automatically supply it, even if you just heard the F. So yeah, I think that purpose of the brain behind the ears, behind the earlobes, is to put back together what's only partially heard, especially if you're deaf, if you're going to rock and roll concerts or whatever, or aging and whatever, you're dropping tones, you're actually missing, subtle differences in your native language, but you know it well enough to recover from loss. But what we're supposed to talk about are dogs barking in the background and native speakers speaking quickly or dropping syllables, so it seems to my beginner ear. This is one of the advantages of learning German or any other language through the data offered by Mozilla Common Voice, that you have to adapt to distractions, whether it's something else, interference, other sound added that's not germane to the sentence, or sounds in the sentence dropped, as I examined in another video. So, can you learn German through pure transcription? That's the point of this experiment. Maybe I'll complete it at some time in 6 months and come back to you. I can tell you now is that German is a lot harder to learn through this method than Romanian. Why is that? Because the mapping from sound to syllable, that is the letters, is pretty much one-to-one. If I hear a sound in Romanian, there's pretty much only one way to type it. So after a certain point, a year and a half, you can have a very high success rate on new samples, even if you don't understand. In German, you have to have a bigger, richer vocabulary and more knowledge of grammar, because in these samples, at least Common Voice version 1, the native speakers don't really, in general, they don't speak that clearly. The pronunciation is more closed. And typical syllables are dropped, as I've talked about in the masculine accusative singular, einen. So in general, you're not going to hear that einen. No one says einem and einem. It's very rare that that last syllable will be very crisp. So you need, in that case, you need to know about dative and accusative cases. Enough of that. And how good is your German? Say you're a student and you think you're, all of that, but you don't travel to Germany often. So How to expose your weaknesses? Well, do transcription exercises with dogs barking in the backgrounds.
Ich denke, das Risiko können wir in Kauf nehmen, urteilte Ulrike.
I think we can accept the risk, said Ulrika. It was just a very banal sentence, but maybe you missed it. Maybe you need more practice. So if you're curious how to write such an application, I have another video talking about that. And or at some point, I can make it a public version available, source code data, and so on. Or better yet, if you're an entrepreneur in the language learning space and you want to try something cool that actually works, doesn't just promise results, it actually delivers the results through a lot of boredom, pain, sadness, and loneliness, sure. Leave a comment down below and we'll talk. Wiedersehen, Wiedersehen.